citizens of the world. Shaba Shams here with Shaba Speaks as we talk about health, wealth, and relationships in an attempt to inspire and empower the citizens of the world. I have a wonderful, amazing guest today, Justin. I'm so happy to have you here, Justin, because I invited you like a while ago and we kept on going back and forth about finding the right time with the time zone and everything. So welcome, Justin, and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and your upbringing. So this is Justin Cohen. And Cohen, am I saying it right? I hesitated a little bit.
That's it. Absolutely. Shaba, great to be with you. Yeah, I am excited to connect both with you and your community. My mission in life is to equip and inspire people and organizations to realize their potential. I do this through various books and programs that I've developed. I've been doing it for over 20 years now. I will really do it in any format. So it could be a presentation, a seminar. I just had a television show on one of our channels in Africa called Emanate, and that was a show called Single Wives, where I was the relationship coach. I also had a show on CNBC Africa where I interviewed personal development experts, well, not just personal, but also business experts on success, and that was called Gurus. So yeah, good to be in your show.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you have a very busy schedule and you were on a summit I think it was like a 2-round summit lately. And I saw it actually on LinkedIn and I jumped on it. And great things happen from just being on that summit. I met and connected with Forbes Riley. So now I am in her network and I got, I listened to so many great speakers you had. But before we talk about the work that you do now, tell us a little bit about Justin growing up and how you found a calling and a purpose, because that seems to be a question that a lot of people struggle with. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I'm put on this planet to do. And, some people are luckier than others where they had the opportunity to ask questions and explore, and others, because of culture, and environment, they don't. So how can we inspire people to even have that little bright light shine at the end of the tunnel to find their calling? How did Justin find his calling?
Well, Shaba, I think, I get asked this a lot about purpose and doing a lot of work within organizations. We know that organizations that are purpose-driven tend to be way more successful because, if you're just coming to work to put food on the table, well, that's a pretty good reason. But when you're coming to change the world, to really make a difference in people's lives, you're going to be far more motivated. One of my favorite stories is the two men on a building site, and a passerby asks them, "What are you doing?" And the one replies, "I'm cutting stone. It's boring. My back is killing me, but at least I get a bowl of soup at the end of the day." And the other one looks up at the sky, his eyes shining. He says, "Me, I'm building a cathedral." Who's going to be more motivated? Who's going to be more fired up, right? Are we just putting stones one on top of the other, or are we building something bigger than ourselves? So I think I think it's imperative that we find that thing, that contribution, because that's what purpose is. Purpose is about contribution, but it can be a little intimidating for people. We kind of waiting for God to come out of the heavens and tell us our purpose. But I can tell you how I found it, and I think it might be the one place that people are not looking, that perhaps should be taking a look at. And for me, it was in my wound. I think your purpose is in your wound. I struggled as a kid. I was a depressed kid. At times I was suicidal, actually. I really struggled. There was domestic violence and sexual abuse. There was, I really just didn't do very well. So, it's really tough as a kid when you're actually really struggling academically. In South Africa, we're a very sort of sports-oriented nation, and I've kind of got the eye-hand coordination of a blind amputee, so I wasn't going to thrive there either. And so when you really are struggling, there's a lot of pain there. But I think one of the reasons that I stayed alive was I kept a diary, and I remember writing this question: what is the meaning of life? Which I was a pretty light-hearted kid, as you can tell.
How old were you at the time?
Oh gosh, I must have been, I would say 10 or 11. I mean, that was really when I was, that was when I really contemplated this idea of ending my life. That was very clear to me as a possibility. And it was around about this time that then I was exploring, what is life? Why life? What's this about? And the word that came to mind was growth. And that gave me hope, because if life was about growth, then it wasn't important where I was, it was where I could be, right? My history wasn't my future, my past wasn't my destiny. There was clearly, there was more that was available, that was possible. If our family struggled financially, then there was a way to create wealth. If I was unhappy, I actually could become happy. If I didn't have the confidence, I could grow confidence. But how did you do that? And school didn't teach you that, right? Isn't this crazy? Is that we go through years and years and years, studying all these things. Of course, many of them are very important. I'm not disputing that, but it seems to me the most important things, like how to be rich, how to be healthy, how to be well emotionally, how to be happy, in their wisdom, they don't teach you that. And that was the beginning of my purpose, because it became clear to me that I needed to acquire that information myself. And so I dived into personal development books. I actually became much more motivated. I became better at school. I improved my grades so that I could study psychology. And that led me on this journey of becoming a personal development author and speaker and trainer. But it all started in my pain. That's where it started. It all started in my struggle. And that's why you asked me, where do you find your purpose? Well, for me, I found my purpose in my wound. That's where I found it. It was, I needed to fix this for me. That's what I said. I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. And I believe entrepreneurs, great entrepreneurs, are incredibly purpose-driven. What are most entrepreneurs doing? What are all entrepreneurs doing? They're trying to solve problems. So when you've had that problem yourself, and you've got to solve it for you, which is what I did largely, I then wanted to be able to solve it for others. And that led me into this field.
So Justin, that's amazing. I mean, I am absolutely connecting with what you're saying, because like you, I grew up in a lot of abuse, a lot of dysfunctional culture and society and family and so on. So a lot of pain and anger. And anger mainly, I think anger more than pain. I think part of how I protected myself from pain is through anger. So I found a way at a very early age, and I mean, I tried attempt suicide at the age of 9. Wow. 9 years old, you're like, you know what? I think I'm done. And a lot of people think you're crazy, but there is this lack of alignment with your purpose and your calling, and even just understanding the process of what am I doing here? And nobody's giving you answers. So you ask very interesting questions, and the answers you get from family and community and society are very misleading. And then you find yourself almost like you're not a fit, you don't belong. And when that feeling is intense in you that I don't belong, so what the hell am I doing here? I'm ready to check out. I mean, to have that kind of thought at the age of 9 is really troublesome. So I turned pain into anger, and anger was my fuel for a very, very long time. That really got me through a lot, kind of just get over a lot of difficult moments and times, and even coming to the States. I'm an immigrant from 20 years, going to college, completing 3 masters, and then just like pushing. So I get a lot of people reaching out to me, international communities, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Africa. And poverty and the lack of resources seem to be their biggest challenge and their biggest struggle. What do you say, Justin? What do you say to people? Because I didn't have lack of resources. Financially, we were okay. So what do you say to inspire people who feel the pain and the anger and the agony in that environment with lack of resources to click that button, shift their lives and tap into growth? What can give them really that sense of, I can do this, where they don't have water, they don't have electricity, they don't have, the means, the basic needs of, the Maslow hierarchy, even like the basic needs are not there. How can we, inspire them and empower them to say, no, I can overcome this. And there is much more in me that I can overcome the pain and the anger and make something out of myself.
Well, I want to take it back a little bit on what you said there, because I think there's a very important point. There's a couple of important points, but there's one that I need to focus on before we move on to this question, which is what we say to people who don't have the resources. So at the time of this interview, two things have happened over the past 2 days. The one is yesterday, Meghan Merkel has said that she had suicidal thoughts at the time she was pregnant. Obviously, there's been this whole controversy because Piers Morgan is denying, is
of course,
crazily disputing that. But that's not actually what's important. What's important is that this is somebody, I mean, literally a princess, right? Okay, maybe not a princess anymore, but metaphorically, she's a princess, right? I mean, she's American, right? She's still a duchess. I mean, I don't really follow royalty all that much, so she's still a duchess. So duchess, princess, whatever. And she's American royalty, and she's officially British royalty, and she's struggled with suicidal thoughts, right? And recently, then I don't know if you saw, but just today it was on CNN. Michelle Obama is saying that during the pandemic, she has been struggling with low-grade depression. You're talking about, a woman who's incredibly privileged. She has this immense value. She's immensely loved. Married to my mind, what is the greatest president in American presidents in modern times. I guess I should be careful with your audience and being as polarized as it is. I guess half won't agree with me.
You're safe here.
But as far as I'm concerned, this was truly two great human beings, and one of them is saying I was in low-grade depression. So what is this telling us? It tells us that you can have all the wealth and privilege. You can have the money and fame and fortune, and you can be a great human being. I don't really follow Meghan Merkel very much. I can't judge her, but I certainly have followed Michelle Obama. This is a quality human being, right? I mean, forget about just rich and fame. This is somebody who's clearly emotionally intelligent. She understands herself. She's great, and she's saying, I've had low-grade depression. So clearly there's something going on here outside of not having the physical resources. And for me, it's something I'm doing my doctorate at the moment in Middlesex in London. And actually the focus of my doctorate is what I call people who are SAP, successful and privately distressed, because there is this very large group of people. And in fact, it seems to me that success can even be correlated with anxiety, because some of what drives success can actually produce anxiety. So that's the one thing which we need to, I think, acknowledge, that just because you've got all these things in your life, it doesn't mean that you won't be depressed, anxious, or suicidal. But let me answer your question, which is, what do you say to those people who don't actually have the physical resources? I come from South Africa. This is a country which I'm ashamed to say has the highest Gini coefficient in the world. That means the difference between the rich and the poor is greatest. By the way, that was one of the reasons I was also inspired to go into this field. I thought, well, I wanted to empower myself, but I wanted to empower others. And so to people who actually don't have the resources, well, Shaba, I'd probably say the same thing as to the people who do have the resources. I think that it actually requires the same things. I think that it is much tougher if you don't have the resources. But that is not to say that it can't be extremely tough if you do. We see that the children of very wealthy people actually have an above average rate of mental illness, of drug addiction. I'm not saying because you've got rich parents, you're going to be a drug addict. Let me be very clear. I'm just saying that there's this correlation when when you come from extreme wealth, it brings it can bring some problems. So I'd really rather say, look, wherever you are in society, whatever your social strata, there are, it seems that the emotional challenges are universal. And they don't pick a particular class or group or nationality. And so what do we do when we're there? Well, I mean, that's a big answer. It's, as I said, that's actually my doctorate is about. But I think, let me give you at least something here. I just felt that we needed to just clarify the issue. We have an operating system. That's what this is, folks. I mean, this is an operating system. It's an OS. And it evolved to deal with a very different environment. The caveman environment of our ancestors was a highly threatening environment where you were continual threat of being eaten by a hungry tiger or uncle. And so our brains evolved to deal with threats. We today live in the most unprecedented comfort and safety in the history of humankind. Yeah. I mean, that is indisputable. If you ask people that, they tell you you're crazy. But if you look at all the things, longevity, healthcare, childhood mortality, I mean, just on virtually every measure, decline of poverty, decline of crime, but people don't feel that way. And in fact, what we've seen very troublingly is in the past few years, we've seen significant increases in mental illness. And people then say, oh, no, you know, the millennials, they just like talking about it. You know, they're snowflakes who just like talking about their mental illness. You know, you'll get somebody like a Piers Morgan who would imply that Meghan Markle, you know, she's just saying this stuff. Well, here's how we know it's not just better reporting. Suicide rates have increased nearly 30% for girls over 5 years. Yeah. Okay? So suicide rates isn't about reporting. If people are committing suicide, we've got a real problem here. And part of what that is, I'd say it's complex, but part of what it is we have algorithms produced by the likes of Facebook and Instagram and social media that preference negative news. Why? Because negative, when it bleeds, it leads. If it bleeds, it leads. Negative news, sensationalism, conspiracy theories, QAnon nonsense, all of that garbage attracts eyeballs. Because we are far more attracted to the threat than the reward. In fact, we know from behavioral economics, we're twice as motivated to see threats than rewards. We've got an algorithm which is essentially overestimate threat. That's why it always seems like there's something wrong with your life. Always, right? If it's not your relationship, it's your work. If it's not your work, your finance. Our brains will find something. So we live in this incredible comfort and ease. And I know we're in an epidemic right now, but let's remember the Spanish flu killed 50 million people. And I know I've been directly affected by COVID. I've lost loved ones. Please, I'm not saying this is not, but contrast it to the Spanish flu. If this is the greatest global disaster since World War II, I don't know about you, but I'd rather be here than in World War II. Okay, so yes, it's tough, right? But it's not near as tough as what our ancestors had to deal with. And yet it seems that anxiety and depression is higher for us. Why? Partly, it is this world we live in with the likes of the Zuckerbergs who have ATM machines, money-making machines that are built on turning us into digital addicts with their bottomless bowl of doom scrolling. And we're just inundated with garbage. Our minds are being polluted by this utter crap that you can see I'm very passionate about this because I think that it is destroying civil society. I know that sounds doomsaying as well. I think we're going to fix it. I truly do. I think we're going to fix it. But I'm angry about it. I'm angry because I think that this is massively contributing to our mental illness. And so what we have to do, if you're asking for one thing we have to do, we need to be very careful about what we allow in here. Mark Zuckerberg wants stuff to go in here because that's how he makes money. And we need to say, thank you very much, Mark. You've actually got enough money. Go do what you need to do. But I'm not going to sit here getting addicted. I need to break this addiction. That's one of the things. I'm not saying it's everything. I'm simplifying, but that's one of the things. We've got to be careful about what we allow into our minds.
Justin, do you think that now we see this increase in depression, suicide thoughts, anxiety, because the world actually is more connected than ever before? And it's not so much the event itself. So, you know, you make reference to the Spanish flu. How much information was disseminated at the time? How much of people in China, for instance, or in Australia, being aware of what's happening in Europe or in other places in the world? The way I see it, because there's nobody sneezing on the other side of the globe as we are connected now. I mean, if you sneeze in South Africa, I'll hear about it. And I think being connected at this degree, at this level, it's not a natural human experience to hear instantly about anything and everything happening in the world. It's not natural, it's not normal. And I think it's a whole new set of skills and behavior that needs to be, you know, that skills and readiness. You know, I did a lot of research on organizational readiness, and what makes failure in organization is being ready for the change, for instance. And I apply the same concept into what is happening now as we disseminate information, we share information, click of a button and everybody knows everything. We're not ready. Maybe there is a process of readiness in this communal experience to look at it and handle it emotions. And our emotions cannot process this level of information and anxieties that we're getting from all over the world. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we have a technology that it's the biggest megaphone in history, right? And it's massively amplified what's out there, and it because of this OS, this operating system that tends to gravitate more to the negative than the positive. These amplification systems are providing this megaphone to the negative, and this is what is so dangerous. And I'll give you an interesting example of this. It's something that actually just happened yesterday. So I went to have my hair cut at a guy I've known for many years. As you can see, does a great job. Riaz.
Very
And
nice.
Riaz is from, thank you. And so Riaz is from Pakistan. And, I have immense regard for Islam. And, when I come in, we always have a good connection. And he tells me about what's happening at mosque. So Riaz is I've assumed he's conservative. He's a conservative guy. He goes to mosque regularly. I come in, we have a hug, salam alaikum, alaikum salam. And so I'm having my haircut, and I see he's got his big TV up there, because he likes his Bollywood movies and he likes his Bollywood musicals, and he puts on this particular video. He says, I really like this song. He puts on the song, and I'm watching, and there's what seems to be this beautiful woman who's singing. And I'm like, wow, true, she's gorgeous, yeah. So he says, I tell you about her. I said, yeah, tell me about it. He says, it's not a her. I said, what do you mean it's not a her? He says, no, it's a man. I'm like, wow. He says, yeah, he says, it's a man. She dresses up and she's good. Yeah, she's good. I say, yes, it's great. I love it. I mean, just beautiful, and I'm seeing all the men, there's all these Pakistani men dancing around and throwing money and, and this is in the middle of the day and, and I'm like going, now, there's two things that are crossing my mind. One, when I've only ever read about Pakistan, I've read about an incredibly conservative society where if you blaspheme, you can be arrested and, and possibly even face capital punishment. So I say to Riaz, I thought Pakistan is very conservative and, you can't, even blaspheme. He says, what do you mean? He says, Pakistan, we have Christian people, we have Hindu people, they're free to do what they do. And I said, and it's okay for a man to dress up as a woman. He says, this happens in Pakistan, this happens around, And I'm realizing therefore that's the news I'm not seeing on CNN. Yeah, that's what I'm not seeing. Not seeing that. I'm not saying that somebody in some part of Pakistan was not arrested for blasphemy. That must be true as well. We can't say that's not true. But that's all I then see. I see this incredibly conservative society where you will be arrested and possibly executed for blasphemy. And I don't see another society that Riaz tells me about where, and by the way, and whether Riaz is gay or not is not important, but the fact is that Riaz is in fact married with kids and Riaz isn't gay. So here's a man who's fairly conservative, goes to mosque, but enjoys watching a man who's dressing up as a woman because he's a great singer or she's a great singer. I'm not sure if this is a transgender person, but so I think the point is, for me, this was such a shock. I consider myself well informed. I read The Economist, Time magazine every week. And this is a Pakistan I've never known about, never been introduced by. And by the way, it's not just Riaz. There's a number of Pakistani hairdressers. They're all sitting there, and they're watching and enjoying, and there's no issue. So I'm going, this is what happens. What's being amplified there in the world is one particular very dark, very scary view of the world. And we are not seeing often, all these other amazing, beautiful, wonderful things like this incredible, gorgeous singer. who happens to be a man but dresses as a woman.
It's actually interesting you say that. First of all, you're from South Africa. I'm from North Africa. I had a friend when I was going to school in Champaign-Urbana, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I had a friend, and she's white, from South Africa, and we always joked around that we were the two only white people from the continent, and it happens that I'm from the north and she's from the south. So it's kind of interesting that we're in the same situation. But my husband is Syrian. I'm from Algeria. My husband is Syrian, and he showed me episodes or some movies or whatever and singing stuff shows from the 1950s, I think, or the 60s, where, like, exactly like you say, because women at the time, they were not really encouraged to be entertainers. So what happens is that they do plays and theater and, movies where a man disguises as a woman, and they come out, acting and singing. And I was, like, looking at it from 2020 or 2019 or whatever. It was hilarious to me. And it's like, oh my God, now it's a whole new trend. And here you guys are in Syria from long time ago. I forgot the name of the actor, but there was one particular one who was very famous because he always dresses as a woman, and he acts as a woman, and it's just simply hilarious. But yeah, I think we need to be a little bit more open about what happens in cultures and what happens in other societies. For instance, I come from Algeria, and I'm a Berber, I'm an Amazigh, I'm typically like the original inhabitant of North Africa. And my group is completely different from this, closed up and very extremist mindset. Our women worked from the beginning of time. We have a lot more freedom and more decision making, and it's like just so different, but nobody even talks about it. And really, I get irritated, for instance, because a lot of people are simply ignorant, and they come and they call me Arab. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have an association to the Arabism or the Arab culture and language, the way I do have a connection with the French culture and language, but I'm an Amazigh, so stop calling me something that I'm not. So I think there is a lot of ignorance in the world. Like, people just have these labels. Oh, you are this and you're that, or you're an extremist, or you're a fundamentalist, you're this and that. And they just put you in a box where really every single person is unique, and we all have our different values and our different way of living, and we shouldn't be putting people in pots and kind of just put a label on them,
Yeah.
and
Well, Shaba, it's just occurred to me, to think, as sadly, many ignorant Westerners do, that, all Muslims are, ISIS supporting extremists, is to think that all Americans are QAnon adherents who believe that the Democrats are pedophiles, Satan worshipping pedophiles, right? Which is what QAnon people believe, right? So QAnon people, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong, and I think that requires some attention, But that's a very small portion of the American side. It's sadly there are QAnon supporters in Congress, so it's amazing how high they've got. But to think that all Americans is the same thing, and so we have to actually. And it's tough because human beings, we also like to categorize. We have these heuristics, it's these easy rules of thumb where you go, okay, this person is that and that person is this. And of course, that's the basis of racism, right? Where you just categorize people. Well, you're an American, you're this. Well, you're a Muslim, you're that. Whether you're a white South African. So, it's lazy thinking. I'd say racism is a kind of lazy thinking because it's just easy to box people. And you're right, it's ignorance. It's just it requires some information and a bit of illumination. We hope we're doing that now.
Justin, I'm going to switch gear a little bit to you now, a little more, kind of taking my microscope there and lensing on you. You talk about journaling, and I did the same thing. And then in my interest, I interview and look a lot about people and success, whatever that means to different people. But a lot of successful people talk about the power of journaling and the power of writing and keeping a diary. What have you discovered in the process of journaling, looking back, in your life journey? Because you journal, you're more aware and mindful and present with your life. What have you learned through the process of your growth? What are your biggest achievements and your worst failures? If I may call it failure, because I don't believe in failure, but it's like the thing that happened to you in life that you had to overcome and made you better and bigger.
Well, yes, I mean, journaling, there's a lot of very good research here. Like, for instance, adolescents who just write about their feelings for 15 minutes a day get as much benefit as those who go for psychotherapy. So there's clearly a lot of therapeutic value in taking the cacophony of thoughts in our mind and crystallizing them on the page. You know, we think at a far faster rate than we speak, and we write even slower. And so what writing does is it helps to slow down the mind. A lot of anxiety and distress is when the mind is racing at breakneck speed and you're sort of jumping from one worry to the next and you're just feeling overwhelmed. I do something called the Breakthrough Masterclass for people who are facing challenges in whatever area they like, personal, business, financial, relationship. And I have this process that I lead people through. And the first process is to identify what is it? What is it? And it's amazing how often I need to say to people, no, stop, do one thing at a time, right? Because like, well, it's this and it's that. One thing at a time. You'll go through the process, one thing, because if you bring in all these things, it just feels like it's overwhelmed, right? And you can't deal with it. You can't solve 5 problems at once. You can't do that. You solve a problem one at a time. So writing helps you to get there. So yes, just writing about your feelings, it does look like there's value in that. For me personally, though, I've found with journaling, I don't have to even call it journaling, but it's journaling in the sense that I would put pen to paper or keyboard. There's some research which shows that writing can even be more helpful, but I actually do it on the computer. I don't write that well anymore because I'm so used to typing. I think my first major breakthrough with writing about myself was actually my goals. And I did this when I was, about 15. And I had this goal at the time. There was a junior council, a sort of where you could actually become junior mayor of Johannesburg. And I don't know why I thought that this might be a possibility for me, given that I had never excelled at all. But I guess in my growth phase, I thought, why not, right? And I wrote that goal down. Junior mayor. And then I proceeded to write about how I could do that, right? That's very important with goals, right? What and then how. And I realized there were specific steps that would need to take place for me to achieve that. And it was quite incredible because within a year, I had actually achieved that goal, which was just, if you know where I came from, it was just preposterous that I should have been able to do that. I mean, this was it wasn't just that I had to rise. I had to not only be elected as a councillor in my school, I also then had to be elected by councillors from a couple of hundred schools around the city. So that was very clear to me that if you've got a goal, write it down. And there's a lot of research about this. Write it down. Clear, written, well-formulated goals that you've broken into sub-goals. I teach this as a big part of what I teach because I've seen how powerful it is in my own life. So that for me, again, I'm stepping out of the traditional definition of journaling, but that writing down really helpful. And then with my Breakthrough Masterclass, I've developed a process called the 5 Master Question Coach. And these are 5 questions that we ask ourselves to achieve a breakthrough. So that's what I would do. So if I'm facing a challenge, personal, business, emotional, relationship, I open up a folder on my computer and I'm like, okay, what is it? And then I go through these steps. And invariably, I will have a breakthrough. That's why I call it the Breakthrough Masterclass. I will have a breakthrough and I will have some kind of solution. Sometimes it's not about a solution. Sometimes it's about acceptance. Or I will be accepting, or I'll be a little bit more detached and at ease with what's going on. So that's where, yes, I like, you could call this directed journaling, right? Where it's focused and directed. But yes, there's clearly value in just writing about your feelings as well.
So what are the 5 questions for the breakthrough?
Oh, you'll have to attend one of my breakthrough masterclasses.
I'm
So
hoping I can get something out of you.
get something out of it. Yeah. No, so the questions are, and it really is, there is a lot there, and I'm very happy, Shaba, to give you and your audience access to what I do, and hopefully they can connect. But the first question is, what is it? You have to define it. It's really important to define. And as I say, people often say there's a few things, you do one at a time, right? Because once you've solved one problem, it is also fortifying. It gives you the sense of your own ability, and you're far more able to then solve the next one. So the first thing is that you really have to define it, what is going on. And then the other questions, I need to provide this background. That's why it's not quite so simple to just go straight into the questions. What they do is they activate three main strategies that we have for transforming our lives. The way I said, there's three strategies, very simple. I call this the art of life. And the A stands for action. Yeah. That's how the second question is, what can I do about it? And you write down 5 solutions. You only need one, but you write down 5, because remember, our threat-oriented brains are really good at seeing problems, but not as good at seeing solutions. So in asking what can I do about it, you're now refocusing onto the solution. And I mean, it's such a simple question, but it's one that we don't naturally go to. And one of the problems has to do, again, with this operating system of ours. Look, depression and anxiety are complex, and they're multifactorial, right? That means that there are many causes. But if you're looking for what I would define as the single most important cause of depression and anxiety, let me be clear. Childhood sexual abuse, your basic physiology, your neurochemistry, all of those are factors. But we know that you can have the same person with the same childhood abuse who doesn't have a mental illness problem, right? So we can't say that's the cause, right? Because yes, it's definitely a risk factor, but we can't call it the cause. And likewise, we can have people with the same genes, right? You can have 2 identical twins, right? They are clones of each other. That means they have the exact same brain, well, almost the exact same brain chemistry. Brain chemistry changes subtly, but certainly they start off with the same brain chemistry. In the intrauterine environment, you do see some changes, but they're pretty subtle. And yet, the one can become depressed and the other not. Again, I'm not saying genes aren't important, but you can't say that it's not. You can't go with genetic determinism. It's not the only cause. So there are many factors, but the one factor that it seems to me, and in fact, not just to me, the research seems very clear on this. In fact, I've actually just seen another big study, a meta study. If you're really looking for a cause, the beautiful thing about this is directly within our control. I don't say easily within our control, and we need tools to deal with it, but it is overthinking. There's a particular kind of overthinking that is responsible for anxiety. It's called worrying. There's a particular kind of overthinking that is responsible for depression. It's called rumination. That's going round and round in your head about negative events, analyzing their causes and consequences. Thinking is the superpower that has enabled us to master the universe, right? Our ability to learn from the past, to plot and plan, envision the future, incredible. Overthinking is like an adaptive immune response gone rogue. It's like inflammation, yeah? Inflammation. It's an adaptive immune response, but it's gone rogue. The problem is most people think that their thinking is a good idea, right? They think I have to worry because it's through worrying that I am able to predict and better control those outcomes. Well, in fact, we know that women who are overthinkers, who tend to worry obsessively, are less likely to go to the doctor if they detect a lump in their breast than those who are not big worriers. So it seems that overthinking becomes a substitute for action. And instead of actually taking the action that we need to do, go to the doctor, get the lump checked, we actually stay in this obsessive cycle of overthinking. So I call overthinking a maze with no exits. It feels like it's getting you somewhere. It actually feels, worrying can actually make you feel better. ironically, because you feel like, oh, I'm solving this, I'm getting there, right? But actually, you're just going round and round in circles. And so whenever your thinking has this obsessive, addictive, compulsive quality, you know that you're in overthinking. Interestingly, the word for depression in Shangaan, which is in Shona, beg your pardon, which is the language of the Shangaan people in Zimbabwe, that word, which eludes me at the moment, means he who thinks too much. The very word for depression and anxiety actually is he who thinks too much. So that question, what can I do about it, I find is quite a powerful way to cut through the overthinking, right? So if you can identify practical solutions, that's the first of the 3 strategies, which is action. Now, again, there are certain things that where there is no action to take, right? If you've just gone through a loss, you've discovered that you maybe have an illness or maybe even a terminal illness. And yes, of course, there's probably many actions that you could take, but some of those things, action, or sometimes there isn't something that you can actually physically do. But I do find action is a very good first port of call. And so that's the first of the 3 strategies. I can share the next with you, but I'll leave it to you to get a word in, Shaba. Others, I can just keep on going.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm definitely enjoying it. I like the idea of the overthinking, which I did not think of it as an overthinking, because I think I'm an overthinker, but I'm also a doer. I don't know if you heard of the DISC assessment. So I took the DISC assessment, and I'm a D-type personality, and thank God there are only 5% of us, because we were like high energy, do and do and do. But I also, I'm very analytical. So I don't know if it's overthinking, but I am very analytical, and I like to break things. In some extent, I think there is a thought process into my thinking. But then once I have the idea, I don't chew on it too much. I jump on it. So I'm more of, let me do it, and then I figure out the rest as I go. And I think that the C-type personality and the DISC assessment are more, as you're saying, meticulous, and they need to overthink. As a result of what, the action is less than the thoughts. They're more thinking, little action, and there is no progress. And then what that happens, there is a sense of, I didn't meet my goal, so I didn't achieve what I want. And there is a sense of failure, kind of not a good feeling. Whereas people like me, I would say, we jump on things, we take risks. We really don't know where we're going to be, getting at, but we do it anyway. And then if we, mess up or it's the wrong path, it's like, I learned from it. Let's do something else. So I like the overthinking part. I'm just trying to figure out how to connect it with some other thoughts, such as fear, because some of the overthinking might lead to fear as well. The more I'm thinking things, I need to make sure that this project or idea is going to be successful. And how am I going to overthink every detail? And with that comes anxiety, and with that comes fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of that and this. So fear penetrates in the overthinking process, and procrastination. The more you think about doing something, the more you procrastinate. And of course, it's attached to perfectionism. A lot of perfectionists are BSs. They're like just coming with, I'm a perfectionist, and they don't do anything because they are delusional about the perfection of what needs to be done without. So I now can see overthinking connecting with these other aspects that I, try to break through and not allow in my world, such as fear, the concept of perfectionism, procrastination. So yeah, I can just call it overthinking.
Yeah, well, the mind, we used to think that when we weren't focused on a particular task, that the mind went into a low energy state. Actually, we now know that's not true at all. When you're not focused on a particular task, you will almost certainly go into overthinking. So this is actually most people overthink. It's one of the flaws of the human mind.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a continuum. It's sort of how much overthinking do you actually do, right? So there's a part of the brain called the default mode network. And so when we're not actually focused on a particular goal, when we're not goal focused, we will tend, if you just sort of sit back and let your mind go, you will tend to just kind of aimlessly think. And by the way, those thoughts will tend to be negative. It will tend to be negative. Most people, like we have what we call a negativity bias. We have a negativity bias that neuroscientist Rick Hansen has proven this just in terms of the activation of the brain. Again, it's why the social media companies addict us with negative news, because the negative news just activates far more of the brain, right? That's the threat detector. So the brain also is going, what's wrong, not what's wrong. The brain figures what's right will take care of itself, right? So what's wrong, I have to focus on. And so that's why even when everything actually is pretty okay, you'll find something that's not okay. And so that's this default mode network. And it just doesn't feel that great. And the way to break through that, I think, firstly, is to become aware of it and then actually be more focused about your thinking. But, let me be clear, I'm not anti-thinking. I mean, if you're doing focused thinking, it's this, what we call mind wandering. It's that sort of aimless thinking. But if your thinking is focused, if you're solving world hunger or poverty, or you're Einstein and you're figuring out the theory of relativity, that's wonderful thinking. That's why I said thinking is the superpower. It's enabled us to master the universe. But it's this aimless thinking, right, which is this default mode thinking. And a lot of people think that they need to think. They think that thinking is valuable. And so the first step is to realize, when you're just doing that aimless thinking about what's wrong with your life, it's actually not helpful. And all that worry, I call it worrying, analysis, and rumination. When you're stuck in worrying, analysis, and rumination, you actually need to get out of it. It's not going to help you. It's not going to make things better at all, right? And so that once we understand that itself, it's not the end. I mean, it's not enough just to know that, but it's certainly a good start, because a lot of people think mistakenly that thinking is of value, because they believe, well, if those thoughts are there must be a reason for them, right? So there must be, but there's an old saying, don't believe your thoughts, right? Because if you think about the garbage that your brain actually produces, your brain, it's not so much that you think, it's actually far more that your brain produces thoughts. And you only have to just look at some of the thoughts that come up, right? I mean, if we were judged by our thoughts, we'd all be in prison, right? Well, I know I would, right? So we have some pretty crazy thoughts out there. And so when you're going to just say, well, okay, they're just thoughts, they're not reality, that's really important as well, because then you don't have to identify with them and you don't have to follow them or believe them, for that matter.
Justin, first of all, I've been looking at your cat back there. She's so cute. Is it a Shibrahi?
That's Kitty. Yeah, geez, so you can see her. Good. Well, I'm glad.
She? Yeah.
That's Kitty. Yeah,
she was
she's
playing
adorable.
the in the background, and she's just like so cute. I love cats.
Say hello. There she is.
Look at that. Hey, Kitty, her name? She's adorable.
Yeah, she's pretty adorable.
Yeah.
While I'm Shaba, I'll show you. This is Johannesburg. People always talk about Cape Town when they talk about South Africa, but this is Johannesburg. Used to be the biggest non-commercial man-made forest in the world.
Beautiful.
So we have more trees here than in virtually any other city. That's now changed. China puts up these cities, one a week. But yeah, so that's actually Johannesburg in the background. It's not the concrete jungle that everybody thinks it is.
So Justin, when I invited you, I said, give me 20 to 30 minutes of your time, and I lied. I lied. So we've been talking. Sorry, it was just like a way to trick you to say yes. It's like, oh, if I said an hour, you probably wouldn't commit. It's like, oh my God, an hour. I cannot spare you an hour. But if I said, oh, can you give me 20 minutes of your precious time, and be like, oh, 20 minutes. I can do that for humanity. It's okay. I can give her 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I lied. So we've been talking for 50 minutes, and I can go on and on and on. I have 2 questions, hopefully the last ones, because I mean, the more you're talking, the more you're triggering more questions. So that's why I say I don't have a script. Now, if I had questions set, I'll be like number 1, number 2, number 3, but I don't. And that's why I do it on purpose. So a conversation, and you're inspiring and triggering other questions that I feel like I need to dig more in. So I have 2 more, I'm hoping. So the first question, or the first question of the 2 last, I would say, is that what was your biggest fear that you've dealt with starting this journey of growth, because you mentioned that growth is really what shifted your life. What was your biggest fear when you started really growing and getting to know Justin more? And how did you overcome it?
Okay, well, firstly, I want to do a quick distinction between fear and anxiety. So fear is a
Yeah.
response to real threat, right? So if you live in a dangerous environment and somebody got murdered the day before and they're possibly coming back, that's fear. There's a real threat going on there, right? Or you're scared of putting your hand on the stove when the stove is on, that's fear. Anxiety is actually a response to perceived threat. And that's why most of what we experience today is not fear. Most of us are actually not.
Can I rephrase? I think
Sure.
because normally when we talk about fear in personal growth, what we mean by it is limited belief. I think I need to rephrase it. So when you started the journey of growth, what was your biggest limiting belief that was a hurdle, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, and I think that limiting belief was connected to anxiety, which is
Okay.
a perceived threat, which I think it was. I was scared people wouldn't. Why would they listen to me? There were people far greater than me. I struggled at school. I mean, I really did struggle. So I never thought of myself as smart. I never thought there were almost everyone in my class. Probably I would say I was in the lowest sort of probably 20 percentile, which means that, hey, so why would if I wasn't very smart, how could I then be going out to tell people? So I would say that was it. It was, I guess, a limiting belief. I mean, it clearly didn't entirely limit me because I went and did it anyway. And I'm not quite sure why I did. As Susan Jeffries famously said, I feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the anxiety and do it anyway. And so I did feel that, and I kind of did it anyway. And I'm not sure, kind of the audacity, actually. It reminds me of the title of Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope. I think it was just the audacity of, I don't know, maybe I'm not that smart, but damn it, this is important, and I'm going to do it. But the anxiety was, will people listen to you? Will they laugh at you? Will they turn you away? Of course, it's the usual. Will you fail? I mean, that was it. But it was just saying, that's that. But I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try anyway.
Justin, courage is not the absence of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Courage is not the absence of fear. The fear of failure, being judged, yada yada, is always there. You just have to tell yourself, here's where I am, here's what I want to be. Am I going to allow anything in between to hold me back from getting there? And that's
Exactly.
courage. That's courage. So I've done so many different things. That especially for a woman coming from a Muslim country, that people look at me and it's like, how in the world did you do it? Like just something as simple as driving. When I moved to Florida, I drove by myself from Chicago to Florida, and I didn't even have a place to stay at my arrival. And that's how I moved. So I drove all the way to Atlanta with no place to stay at for the night. And then I came all the way to Daytona Beach with no place to stay at, a woman alone. That's courage that overcomes fear. Taking that leap of faith in yourself. It's like, damn it, I'm going to do it because I trust myself and it's going to be okay. And it was amazing. I mean, the experience, that's another conversation, was mind blowing. When you trust yourself and you believe in, I want to be there, I want to get myself there, and there is all these other things in the middle between the A point to the B point. No, I want to get there no matter what it takes, and that's courage. But it doesn't mean that there was no fear. So your biggest accomplishment, Justin, something you look back that you've done, a goal you achieved, something you envision to accomplish. What is the most fulfilling things that you accomplished in your life?
Well, I've always said that my biggest accomplishment, my biggest success was my biggest failure. I had written 4 books, nonfiction books, and I had this vision was actually for a TV show. There's so many, TV is a very powerful medium to reach people. And I wanted to create a show. We've got shows on cops and lawyers and medical people. I thought, what about a show about top level personal development experts? And every episode you're seeing the range of people whose lives they change. And along the way, you're seeing the complexity of the gurus themselves and how they're actually struggling and going through the same difficulties and the same challenges, even more so. So I wrote to write this book called Quest Inc. It took me 5 years to write this book. I needed to learn how to write stories, right? Because I was used to writing nonfiction, and fiction is much more difficult in my experience. But it was a beautiful experience. I mean, I still have such great memories of waking up early in the morning, writing for 3 to 4 hours, building these characters and these plot lines, and then pouring really heart and soul into it. And it was a really terrific failure, actually. In fact, I got a green card to come to America. My big dream, I was going to take this to America, and I was going to, take it to Hollywood and make it, because I really wanted this to be a TV series. I wrote the book, and I was told it'd be better to first write it as a book, because then you'd have something, because it's so competitive. And I did. I got my green card, which wasn't such a simple thing either. That's the big dream for many people around the world. And I got this under a visa called Alien Exceptional Ability. And I went off to America, and I realized very quickly how tough this was going to be. Doors were closed, as they always are. It's the usual story. I mean, I almost feel like it's a cliche, 70 rejections later, and, every publisher, and that was it, and then, I know people say never, never, never give up, it's Churchill, but actually sometimes you got to give up, because you got to decide where you're going to put your resources, and I just felt like I'd gone as far as I could with this, and that was that. But when people ask me the question you've just asked me, I always used to say my biggest success is my biggest failure. Because why was it a success? I learned, firstly, I loved the process. It wasn't all about the goal and the outcome. It was the I loved the writing. It turned me into a much better writer. Even in my nonfiction books, I've become a better writer, because I've learned to write stories. I understand how to create that emotional connection. I went on to write other books I wrote a book called Pitch to Win, which is on pitching, which uses storytelling, which I'm proud to say I've helped some people win some major pitches, and that's become a whole program on its own. The point is that failure led to these tremendous successes afterwards, but that wasn't why I called it a success. I loved it. It raised my skills. I do have to say this is the first time I'm actually sharing this publicly. I had a show on a major channel here in Africa, and we have met with the channel head. My partner on this project is in fact a Hollywood director. He recently directed a film called Panzerkiller with Gerard Butler and Gary Oldman, and they are very excited about turning this into a TV series. And it's not confirmed, so I can't say that, but it looks like there's a good chance that this is 8 years ago. I'd long since given up on this, right? Okay, I did it, it was great, but it's over now. And 8 years later, we're now going into negotiations to potentially turn this into something. So whether that was happening or not, I would still say it was my biggest success because of the process and how much it taught me. So yeah, long answer, but some interesting things just happened over the past few weeks to take this possibly to the next level.
I love it, honestly. That's why I love these interviews. And I told you that's why I come unprepared, because the whole discovery process is like, wow, this is, you don't get all of this by scripting questions 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to be a conversation. It has to be like an organic, authentic conversation of two people getting, to share ideas and thoughts. Oh my God, beautiful. I love it. I love it. My biggest success is my biggest failure. I never thought of that. So now I'm going to be searching for my failures. I have few. I have few. Call to action, Justin. Anyone listening to you here? What would you give?
Well, Shaba, I would love your audience to connect with me. We have just launched
and how would they do that?
So very simple. Go to xlife.zone, www.xlife.zone. Sign up over there, and every week I do something called X Life Sparks. These are science-based self-improvement tips, and And if you like that, that's free, by the way. It's absolutely free. I will also announce events. So whenever I'm doing events, so I think the event you attended where I was speaking with Deepak Chopra and Les Brown and Jack Canfield. So those events, when I'm doing those events, you'll find out about them. But you will also get some really solid information each week. So very simple, xlife.zone. We've just set this up. There's a whole membership attached to it. You don't have to sign up for the membership. If you want to, you'll see how to do that. But even if you just sign up as a subscriber to xlife.zone, you'll get a whole bunch of great content to raise the quality of your life.
I'm guessing.
Live exceptional.
I'm guessing also you are on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, so my handles are Justin Presents. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, just search Justin Presents. My personal website is justinpresents.com. So if you're looking for stuff, for me, it's not about me. That's why I'm shifting this to X Life, because I want a community, and that's what I'm trying to build there. But yeah, if you're looking for me in particular, or as a speaker or a trainer, justinpresents.com, and all my handles are Justin Presents.
Yeah, and I'm going to be getting all these links from you in an email or something that I can just insert into this video. That way people can just click on a link, because they don't want to do some extra work. Why would you make them work too much? Just give them the link and have them click. Thank you so much, Justin. I mean, it's been such an amazing conversation. I definitely enjoy having you, and you're welcome anytime. You have 20 minutes to spare. Just say, hey, I want to come and chat. My audience is rather international, more like Pakistan, India, the Middle East, North Africa because you're in the South, and then Europe, and of course the States and Canada. So I have people all over. There is also an initiative that I was asked to do, is develop a show for Al Jazeera through Lifestyle TV Show USA. So I'm super excited about that. And then I'm hoping also to get a piece with the Shuruk, which is a national television back in Algeria. They had me as a guest speaker for a couple of times, and we're looking into doing a show called something about Islam, how non-Muslims become Muslims. Islam, my story with Islam. Yeah. And the one for Al Jazeera is called Sawt min America, a voice from America, which is my voice. And of course, I have the Shaba Speaks show and just different things. So I am very grateful for your time and for your insight. And I'm very excited to have you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Shaba. Thanks for having me on the show, and best of luck with all those projects. That sound fantastic, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, inshallah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.